doesn't have much of a sense of humor. Everything is sensitive, which means that the left is such a ripe target for attacks. And Flip City does a great job of doing that. They also boast a terrific roster of artists that rivals that of the old Mad magazine. The level of art and the continuity in the comic strips is just superb.
Thank you, Mike. Boy, I really appreciate your support and your nice words about Flip City. Yeah, it really is an inexhaustible supply of leftism these days that you can have a go at. There's no end of stupidity and horrible things to make fun of.
Yeah.
There's you and the Babylon Bee.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we're much better than the Babylon Bee. Because it's in print, and like you said, our wonderful roster of artists and all that. But yes, you're absolutely correct. There is no ending to material. We're kind of surprised that nobody has picked up the torch that has been laying there for years, that Mad and Cracked and all those greats have dropped. And in 2019, we decided to pick it up. It was time.
Well, I think we were really going against the current because you guys know those kind of magazines really started to wind down in the 1980s, and by the end of the 80s, Mad who started it was the last survivor, and those numbers have gone way down, and all the trends went in the 1990s. All the trends went into men's magazines. Suddenly, they started pushing bro culture. So now instead of using your brain a lot, it was just about learning what kind of girls, what kind of gear you should be interested in, what you should care about, which never interested me much. So that kind of stuff just disappeared. The couple of exceptions, like Spy magazine out of New York, lasted for a while.
I loved Spy. I subscribed.
Yeah. I did too. Yeah. Back in the late 80s. Spy was a funny magazine. But for the most part, they've flown the coop.
I subscribe to Flip City, too. And the latest issue, they keep an eye on comic culture. The latest issue has a comic strip that makes fun of the feud between Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of that?
Yeah, we haven't received feedback on it.
Right,
and,
not at all.
It's very funny. It's very funny.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. I didn't know if that landed, and I had to admit it was a fairly uninformed comic strip. I mean, I've really not paid attention to that stuff too much, but on the surface. So I was just kind of winging it from, it wasn't really about Eric July or Ethan Van Sciver at all. It was more about the fans and comic fans' reactions.
Well, I'm friends with both guys, so
yeah.
I can look at it impartially, and I don't think it was vicious or mean-spirited in any way.
Well, that was the thing too. When I think when after you were done writing it, we discussed, and I said, if either of them got their hands on it, we would hope they would laugh and get that it's just a joke, and we're not part of this at all. We're not part of any feud. No sides.
Yeah.
Because both those guys, EVS and Eric July, are firmly in your camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of conservatives have their heads screwed on straight and know what they want. The problem is, of course, the other side of the aisle, which will believe anything except what they've learned through the wisdom of the ages. And the characteristic of the left, one of their many characteristics, is that they are lacking in a sense of humor. And any joke you make is, that's not funny. And then they'll explain it to you why it's sexist, racist, or patriarchal, or whatever, because they get off on outrage. That's their bread and butter. And they find it everywhere. I mean, that's one of my main complaints about the left is they've politicized everything, including the air we breathe. There is nothing you can name that they have not found a social cause to wedge into it to divide people.
Right, absolutely. Well, I think one of the funnier interactions I've had on Facebook in recent history was I had posted a meme and leftists laughed at it. And then about 20 minutes later started yelling at me on Facebook because they looked at my profile.
Yeah.
And so, and they're like, you didn't mean this to be funny. You meant it to be mean. I'm like, no, I meant it to be funny.
Well, that's the problem with humor. Humor is in itself problematic because all humor is based on tragedy, except for puns, which are the lowest form of humor.
That's what I've heard. I still like dishing out the punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did that when I made him read jokes on our stream. I love when Mike sighs and rolls his eyes at me.
Yeah.
High forms of humor, low forms of humor.
The highest form of humor is the juxtaposition of the sacred and the profane, things that don't normally go together. And I tell a joke, but jokes are not the highest form of humor. As I said, the highest form of humor is presented dryly, without a wink, wink, and a nod, and you don't have to spill it out for people. But it's hard to find humor these days, especially in popular entertainment, because as we know, the entertainment industry largely belongs to a certain class of people that don't find anything funny. Can anyone name a movie comedy of the last 10 years that was honestly funny?
We don't watch movies. We've given up almost all forms of entertainment.
No, there might be.
We do have comedians who have the courage to be funny. Dave Chappelle comes to mind. He's carried on in the tradition of Richard Pryor and Lenny Bruce, for that matter. But when you watch Chappelle, he's always in good humor. He's not an angry comedian like so many are, and that's one of the things that makes him so successful, is because we can laugh along with him, because he's always got that good-natured grin on his face, and he says, "You know what I mean? Yeah, we know what you mean."
Yeah,
know that's saying.
Yeah, that's what's and that's really shown up a lot, and I know a lot of people have talked about this, but like with the late night talk shows and stuff, it's like they have been funny for a long time because they have
no sense of humor. I mean, the idea of the humor is, how about those Republicans? Aren't they all fascists and they should go to the camps? Ha ha ha! That's the level of their humor.
Our ragtag band of zombie apocalypse survivors find themselves on a sprawling studio lot near Sonoya, Georgia.
I scouted ahead. There's an advance of zombies on the perimeter. There must be 1,000 of them.
Scarl, help me secure the barriers.
I head that way and create diversion.
Everybody calm down. I'm sure they saw the flyers I posted and came to join our anti-racism rally.
When did we agree to a rally? What are you talking about?
I planned it all out. Look, I made these signs out of aluminum siding from our shelter and our last bit of firewood. Hey there, we just want to make sure you have equal access to voting. I have a stack of mail-in ballots right here if you need them.
Rick, I ain't comfortable with this.
Go back to hell, zombie scum.
Hey Daryl, how about we stop with the demonization? These aren't bad people, they're just dead and they need jobs. Maybe try something called compassion for once. If you're going to insist on being xenophobic and blaming immigrants for all your problems, then you're forcing me to stand against you. This here is our opportunity to extend a hand to our former humans. Ow.
Grab the big guns. They're coming fast.
Hold on there. Those rifles are for hunting small game and birds.
But, Dad!
These are weapons of war. Nobody needs a gun that will shoot 30 bullets in 30 seconds. You think you're going to take on the government or something? You'd need more than that, like F-15s and stuff. The government could just nuke you if they wanted to. Now put your guns in the fire and we'll melt them down in a symbolic gesture.
You're crazy. You need serious help, man.
And maybe you need to take a look at yourself and ask why you need to make up for your microphallus by walking around with a bunch of guns like a big shot. Come on, everybody, reject Daryl's calls for violence and form a human chain of resistance. No justice, no peace. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
If I live through this, I'll eat you myself.
And obviously, it's really hard if you just write stuff, or if you just you know, or do a social media post, it's hard for people to necessarily take it right. It always seems like they take it too far, or they don't understand, or whatever. It's very hard to land in like only text. Do you guys find it a little bit easier to use visuals for the humor?
Well, yeah, because
I mean,
you know, the pictures can communicate the mood.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true. They could say everything.
I mean, it's like Dave Chappelle. If you were just transcribed some of his stuff, and then you showed a picture of an angry shouting man,
yeah,
you'd say, well, yeah, I mean, I can put the two together. But when you see him doing it with such good humor, he's kind of giving you a green light to laugh.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. Well, it is funny because you had mentioned social media and trying to be funny on social media. We're terrible at social media. And we don't even really try that hard to make people laugh on social media.
I suppose not.
Yeah. But yeah, it's different. I think maybe it might even be a little different because it's written down and it has the funny picture and it's in print. You know,
Right.
it might be taken differently if it was digitally. I don't know.
There's an old joke. Ask me what the key to humor is. Go ahead. Go ahead and ask me.
What's the key to humor?
Timing.
Yeah. And you know, when you have illustrated these things, I think it makes it a little more difficult to dismiss. People can easily dismiss a written comment or two.
Right.
Maybe with the illustrated art form, you suck people in before you give the game away, and then they've invested this much time, and then they can laugh or be very angry that there's any demand for.
We
what you've
really
done.
we really would prefer, you know, everyone to laugh, but if they get really angry, that's still a win for us.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of people come over; they just want to be hurtful. I'm sure you've
Yeah.
experienced these kind
Yeah.
of people who, you know, they
Yeah.
find out what you're doing and they just want to find a way to hurt you.
That's the most interaction we get on Twitter is Scott's two trolls. He's attracted. It's like somebody's paying attention. Nice.
It's really only one troll lately, and you know what? In the interim, I blocked him because
Yeah, you were
it's such
tired.
a waste of time.
Yeah.
Such a drain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter lends itself to misunderstanding because context is everything. And everybody says, well, what we need is a sarcasm emoji so that people know you're being
Yeah.
sarcastic, because I've posted things that were sarcastic and I shouldn't, because sarcasm gets you nowhere. Oh, really? Well, it got me to the International Sarcasm Contest in Peru last year. Really? No.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That was
I missed the
You
sarcasm.
missed the joke.
they should have that at where they do the World Economic Forum. That should be where they.
They should
Yeah.
definitely have comedians come out at the World Economic Forum between lectures. That would be so great.
You know,
And in fact, that's an idea for you guys.
you know, I think what I'd love to do is hire Jim Brewer to do his Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? You should also add a signer for the deaf, because a signer for the deaf has so much comic possibilities. I've never seen it done, but I would love to do it.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, you're
Oh,
hired
yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's and the great thing about that is, I mean, it depends on how much you're actually showing the signing, since you can only show one thing at a time. But you could be doing two totally different versions in the same panel of what he's what whoever is speaking, and the person signing saying something totally different.
Oh, I also kind of like having two different signers, one for the left and one
Yeah,
for the
that's
right.
a great idea.
Yeah. That's
And then
yeah.
they start getting on each other's nerves, and then they get in a fight.
Yeah.
Nice, and they each break each other's fingers.
Yeah, well, then
Sad.
that could be And technically, yeah, that could be an ongoing gag or whatever, where you're covering a whole bunch of different things and having a signer for the right and a signer for the left, kind of, especially if they're just totally showing the extremes.
Right, and the signer for the right is wearing a Minuteman costume with a tricorn hat. He's carrying a musket, and the signer for the left is wearing a pink tutu or something.
Yep, sounds pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you guys saw the SNL skit that they just did with the Jeopardy with Trump and Kamala.
A little bit.
Jeopardy. Okay, if you have not seen it, it's one of the funniest things that any TV his stuff has done in a while. And one of the reasons why it's funny is, well, for one thing, they really go off on Kamala. I mean, pretty bad.
They had to, I mean,
yeah.
it was just laying there to be picked up.
At this point, they have to. But it's also funny because of the stuff they do with Trump and everything too. So it's like, it's an equal opportunity offender, which is what comedy should be.
Right, absolutely. I had only heard rumors that they're being funny again.
I'll tell you, one of the things that they did, they brought back people that have not been on Saturday Night Live in a while, like Dana Carvey and a bunch of other people. So one of the Jeopardy questions was things that you would have in a glove compartment in a car, and she's like, listen, I was born in a small town, and the audience erupts. I mean, and that they're not mostly conservative,
right?
In the audience, and they just died laughing. I mean, just from then on, I mean, it was like, yeah, it's pretty. It was pretty great, and I was like, yes, like this is good. Like we need this where you can make fun of both sides. And a lot of people on the left are like, it's not funny when you only make fun of one side. Like it does seem mean spirited and stuff when you're only doing one side.
Yeah. How long did they run that Alec Baldwin train for? I mean, they did that for years, right? They brought him back. They had him all season, and they brought him back another year. So,
But notice there haven't been any skits based on Alec Baldwin on the Rust filming set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
begging to be done.
Might be touchy.
Yeah.
They don't really even touch Joe and bring Dana Carvey in until it's absolute lame duck territory.
It's almost like the writers got some kind of, unleashing or
and
recently.
Dana Carvey has been doing this for 4 years because that's what that guy does. He just watches people do it, and he sits there and makes fun of it. So finally the timing was right.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been right timing while he was in the race.
Yeah. But so how did you guys get interested in was it like Mad Magazine and those things, or were you guys more into like Spy versus Spy?
Well,
everybody's into Spy versus Spy, but yes, this is definitely your territory.
Too much.
Yeah.
Nothing specific, I guess, but no, I did read. I was not a guy who bought the mainstream comic books in my youth. Like I think more of my money went into coin-operated video games in the 80s, which I suppose in retrospect, I mean, I put those quarters in the machine. Maybe I learned something, but I didn't really get anything. I didn't get anything to hold on to. I don't have anything in the closet. I just, wasted a lot of money. And I could have put that money into comic books, I suppose, and built up a collection that my mom would have thrown away at some point in the 1990s.
You wouldn't have it anymore.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but I did not read that stuff. I read Mad, and I would buy cracked magazines. So that was, that's where. So that's where my chops came from as a kid.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, were you also into any of the like Calvin and Hobbes or anything like that? Any of the newspapers, comedy strips?
Yeah, sure. That was a great one. What was out at that point? Well, back in the 80s, I liked Bloom County. That was a good one for its time, I think maybe that style has aged a little bit, but...
were there certain comedians or anything like that you were into? Or movies like at that time that you thought were really funny? Or
no, I don't suppose so. I don't really remember too much.
Hitman on Netflix is pretty funny.
Yeah. What's that?
It's the most recent, honestly funny comedy I can think of.
I think one of the most recent entertainment things that we've really been impressed by that is hilarious is The Great on Hulu. Because it's a satirical retelling of Catherine the Great's rise, and awesome writing, awesome everything, really. The actors are fantastic, and sets and costumes and writing. The Great on Hulu. I recommend everybody go watch that.
Hi, it's your friend Elmo here. And Elmo just want to say, Elmo loved all his friends on Sesame Street. Did you get the jab?
Nope.
Did you get the jab?
Nah.
Stay the hell away from me! Everybody stay away! Stay away! Mask up! Mask up! 6 feet, please! 6 feet right now! Uh-oh! Elmo's sick anyway. This is all your fault!
Some kind of study that had come out fairly recently that was, but it showed like, I don't know, it's like 60% of Americans wanted to have people that like weren't wearing masks or weren't getting the vaccine, like wanted them locked up in camps.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember all the hate directed at our kind.
Yeah.
You know, the people that weren't going to vax, weren't going to mask, weren't going to, play their restrictions game. And I mean, gosh, I was just reminded of comedians that wanted us dead, and reminded Scott of a piece that he did in one of our earlier issues, highlighting all the comedians that wanted us dead. And because I had seen David Cross on Jim Brewer's podcast, and Jim Brewer talked crap about David Cross talked crap about Jim Brewer, and basically was like, I can't wait for these people to die that didn't.
I know.
And then the audience is like, ha 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 ha, ha yeah. And I'm like, oh, that is creepy. Like we get really mad and irritated at, people we don't agree with, but I've never wished death on anybody.
Yeah.
Or would think that's an overwhelmingly leftist characteristic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's be clear about this, that what they call the far right is really the far left. I mean, they keep trying to paint Hitler as far right, whatever that means. But far right, the epitome of far right is what the founding fathers framed in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is the primacy of the individual, the God-given right to speak whatever you want and to protect yourself. But Hitler, everybody forgets that Nazi comes from National Socialists. They don't like to discuss that. But that enough about Hitler. except for this, there's a movie called Downfall. It's a German movie about Hitler's last days in the bunker. And I know you've all seen that scene where he's in the bunker and he orders all non-essential personnel out, and then he goes into a rant.
Yeah.
Because that's been used over and over for so many issues, and it's always funny. It never grows old.
I find it funny that you think Hitler's funny, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad you do. And there's humor. Even the darkest story has flashes of humor. Shakespeare understood that. Cormac McCarthy doesn't understand that. He's still a great writer, and I still admire him. But the guy's not exactly a riot. He's not a laugh-a-minute kind of guy.
I'm wondering, since we sent out a ship with the Hitler message on it, what kind of aliens we might be attracting back to Earth.
The morgue.
Yeah.
Well, let me point out that people who are looking for your website should go to flipcitymag.com.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
flipcitymag.com. Now, how many times a year do you publish the magazine?
4 meaty, spicy issues in your mailbox, and quarterly.
Another thing, by the time you guys post this, we'll have a campaign live exclusively on Fund My Comic. So you can just go to Fund My Comic and type in Flip City, and you'll find our campaign.
Oh yeah, that's going to be for issue 23, where we lead with an epic Joker 2 parody, which is fairly timely. it's timely for now.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be a couple of months before it gets out, but yeah, that's a real good one with our lead artist Ben Sullivan, who's terrific. And it's a full musical, so it's got 5 songs in it. I think you'll enjoy that. And
nice.
where we force you to sing inside your head, even though you really didn't want to in principle. Now you start reading, and you got to kind of sing along.
One other thing too, because Mike, you had asked about our publishing schedule. Something that we're super excited about, and it's coming up, is we got accepted into Diamond. So our volume 23 is going to be in the Diamond catalog. Yeah, we were kind of surprised, but they accepted us, and
So if you're a comics retailer, look for that in November's Diamond Comics offering in the magazine section into your store.
Do you guys ever watch Comic Skate Kings on Ethan Van Sciver's channel?
I have started watching Ethan a little bit more because he's kind of funny. You know,
last night was savage because he was highlighting this new Nightwing comic, which is obviously aimed at a gay crowd. And it's all up there now if you want to watch it, but it's rich material for satire if you've got the guts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got the guts.
You do.
Yeah. Got the guts.
He'll go 5 hours at a pop. I don't understand how he does that, except he can draw while he's talking. So he's getting work.
Yeah.
No, I don't
writers,
get it.
Writers can't do that.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. How I deal with my own YouTube. Scott watches a lot less YouTube, but I usually just scroll through who I'm subscribed to and see who's live. And if Ethan's live, I usually will choose him because guaranteed within 10 minutes he's saying something that's making me laugh. So that's something like I don't understand, the rage at him. I'm like, he's never said anything that seems that terrible, but I don't know. I don't closely follow everything. So I'm sure there's some reason I should be mad at him.
There are Twitter feuds that have been going on for years.
Yeah.
This had nothing to do with Ethan, but I take note of them because they're morbidly entertaining in a strange way. I mean, how long can these guys just? I know I am, but what are you? I mean, it's going on for years. It's just.
Well, I had a friend tell me way back that Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump are actually friends, and they're just doing their feuding to like boost each other. And I'm like, maybe that's what's happening in comics. These people really are friends, but the drama attracts,
that reminds me of Andy Kaufman and the time when he wrestled in the woman with the women. Mm-hmm. And then that guy who was the head wrestler, Lawler. What was his name?
Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler challenged him, and they had a match that looked brutal. And Lawler kept dumping Andy on his head, and Andy flew into a rage. But when you watch the movie Man on the Moon, starring Jim Carrey, you see them meeting after the match and joking about how the whole thing was planned out. And that was such a shock to me because it looked so real.
Yeah, and I never did see that Jim Carrey movie, but I'd seen that a few times, and then it was one of the later times I watched it, I realized, you know what? Jerry Lawler is a performer. This is not legit. He's not really making Jerry Lawler mad. This whole thing is an act, and
that was Kaufman's thing. Presenting the most outrageous situation imaginable, straight-faced, and daring you to react to it.
Did you guys try to get in Diamond before and not get accepted?
No.
This was the first time you had the guts.
It was kind of was like that. It just took us, and particularly me, because I do a lot more of the business side of the magazine.
Right.
And I'm like, it's time. We have enough issues behind us, because we haven't been publishers before Flip City. It's like, we don't have a name. We're big nobodies, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I'm like, we have enough issues behind us. And I, pitched it in a certain way, and they contacted us back, and the magazine buyer or representative, real nice guy. And we're excited to start this new adventure. It's a little intimidating with all the shipping requirements and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we don't screw up too bad.
Well, I think the timing on that was all right because first the thing had to get born and then it had to grow and develop a little bit. I'm much happier with where it's at now than if we had tried this early on. It's a little more seasoned. It's a little more like a regular magazine.
We finally have a regular format.
Well,
I think the last year and a half, probably 18 months.
Yeah, because we took on more pages, so for a while you gotta have some kind of formatting to help you crank it all out.
So I encourage anybody watching this podcast that if you'd like to see the maturation of Flip City, we have almost all of our past editions still for sale on our website, so you can buy the past all the way to present with a few additions, not available anymore.
And you can go on our site and you can get a free issue. Right, honey? Cool.
Yes. Yes, that is the other thing too.
Thumb through it, and that's about what you get.
Are there any general things or big things that you guys learned, just in the magazine space?
Yeah.
Do you guys have?
Marketing. That was something that was really easy at the beginning. Was marketing because we were able to pick up a couple of larger YouTubers, and so we kind of rocketed right at the beginning, and people were excited. And then after a couple of years, it kind of went exactly with how the economy has been, affecting everybody. Once the economy started tanking, our rocketing kind of plateaued and all that kind of stuff. So, we got into it. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do to, make people know, but we got really lucky, got a couple of YouTubers. I'm like, this is easy. I'm going to get all the YouTubers to talk about Flip City because there's all these YouTubers. That's not so easy. We just got really lucky at the beginning. So yes, marketing, it is a bear.
Okay. Marketing. Marketing. I learned how to write better. I mean, I was just kind of, I hadn't done tons of that. Maybe in the old days, because I used to do some indie comics, nothing anyone ever would have seen. But when I just started bearing down on writing short form bits, and now what have we done? We've done just with our lead guy, Ben Sullivan, we've done 12 or 13 entertainment parodies now. And it's not, I don't want to use the word formula because it's not formulaic, but it's just kind of gelled in me how to break these stories down and make them, how to work it till the end.
It's more of a craft than necessarily, I know Mike and I probably had a gazillion people ask us, what do you do when you have writer's block? Because it's like when you're professional writers, you don't get writer's block. You have deadlines, you have to get stuff done. And so you figure out ways to make it happen.
That is something over the course of the last 5 years that I'm always regularly impressed with, is that Scott never seems to, I know you do, and you have, your techniques of getting over it, but never seems to have writer's block. It's like, I cannot believe you put out this much content every 3 months. And especially if we're having a stressful time or, life just isn't that funny. He's still funny. He's still able to make, an entire magazine packed with laughs.
I don't feel like I get writer's block anymore. I mean, sometimes I don't feel like working. That's all.
Right. Oh yeah.
But the rest of the time, it's like something I've resolved where if I have a good premise, if the premise is there, the basis is there, then I trust that there's a finish to it. So if I go into this, or with the illustrated pages, even if I'm doing the illustration, if I get this far into it, I got faith that there's a way to end it. So I'm not hung up on that and worried about that. Like, I did 95%, but I'll never finish it. I don't know. If it makes sense to start it, then there's an end point for it somewhere.
Right.
And it'll come out.
Because your brain is a muscle, and that's the difference too, of where it's kind of like being an athlete or whatever too, that the more you use it, the more you're using it to tell stories, to be creative, then the more it's going to be able to do that and work in that way.
The brain is still the fattest organ in the body.
You haven't seen my stomach lately.
I mentioned flipcitymag.com. We're on social media. Where else can they follow you?
Well, so basically, every social media, but almost all social media, where our handle is at Flip City Mag. Yeah, and I think on YouTube, it's Flip City Magazine. And of course, at flipcitymag.com, you can find all of this information. So that's where we really like to direct people, is flipcitymag.com. You can find our link tree there. And I highly encourage people to check out that free magazine. Just go to Flip City Mag. And I've made all these cool animated buttons and stuff like that, so you don't miss where you can get the free magazine. Because we like proving that the magazine is as funny as Mike says, because he's our biggest fan.
And he's only 4 feet tall, so. Joking. 4.5 feet.
I don't. You're starting to look like me.
Yeah, he's shrinking down. I love it. Mike's always a good sport when I tease him.
If you like watching live broadcasts, I do one once a week on Thursday nights called Creative Chaos, and I bring on a different independent creator to talk about their stuff for about the first 30 minutes, and then it goes right back to me, and we talk about me for 30 minutes, and then we're done.
Yeah, that's the flagship show, which I think is changing over time. And
it is changing over time. So basically, one of my segments is called Conspiracy Corner, and apparently that's what the audience likes the best.
Yeah.
And I've developed even a cool spinning wheel with a ton of conspiracies that we get to talk about, and it does not matter if you're a conspiracy theorist or not, because you literally can talk out your ass, because it's just for entertainment's sake, So that's what, as far as online entertainment goes, that is our free magazine, and then our weekly show, Creative Chaos.
Wait, and is that on YouTube, or where do people watch
that? That's on YouTube, Pilled, and Rumble, and eventually we'll get it back going on Twitter once we get that fancy blue check mark back.
Yeah, the fancy blue check mark.
So there's room on the credit card to pay for the fancy blue check mark.
Yeah,
we'll have the blue check mark back.
Well, thank you guys for being on. Definitely encourage people to check out their stuff, your stuff. Especially, nowadays, hey, everybody likes free stuff. When it costs free, $30 to go to McDonald's, it's it's nice to get free stuff.
See, that's the thing. I often do think about, what people can buy these days for the cost of the subscription. It's like, okay, you can get 2 meals at McDonald's or a Flip City subscription.
Yeah, well, I'll let you guys go. I don't care what Mike does, but you guys need to stay
Let
on.
my people go.